Hello and welcome to The Truth. Today I'd like to talk to you about anger and rage. You know, we all get angry for something or other because basically deep inside us we want our own way. We want to be allowed to do anything that we want to do. But of course, as we are born and start to toddle and walk and listen and watch and observe, what we see is a tremendous amount of animosity around us. And of course, if we copycat that and start crying or shouting or doing a little fit on the floor, rolling around, swinging legs and arms and saying no to mummy, we get a slap, or maybe we get put in cot or bed or somewhere and we get isolated. And at this very young age, we realize very quickly that we are actually punished for something that we don't really understand. And of course, when that happens, we actually say to ourselves, nobody loves me, nobody cares about me, in a childlike way, meaning I'm so alone, I'm so miserable, I'm so sad, I just can't get anyone to understand me and tell me what I'm actually wanting to hear, which is, hey, you're a sweet child and I love you to death and I'll give you everything you want. Well, wouldn't that be lovely if we had that kind of life? But of course, as we grow older and we do a lot of different things in our world, we rationalize, justify, excuse, and explain to ourselves why we are upset so often. And when we tell ourselves that repetitively, that nobody cares about us really, it's not long before we become emotionally, mentally, and physically depressed. And when we are depressed, we try to tell ourselves, well, it's okay, it'll all go away and I'll be fine next week. And of course, an amount of repetitions go on throughout our lives as we age and get older. And society says there are rules, and if you break them, you're in prison or you're in some way chastised by pay a fee or a debt to someone to make up for what you did or didn't do according to your mind. And of course, then you start to think life is unfair. Nobody really cares about me. All they think about is themselves. The world is a selfish place. And ultimately, it's a dark place. And because it's so dark, I find myself thinking to myself, I need to let people know how dark this world is. I'm going to go out with a gun and shoot people. Well, in the overview, at that moment of trauma, that rationale's gone out the window. I just hate everyone. I can't stand anything anymore. It doesn't matter how many times I've told people I'm unhappy, the rage starts to build. And in no time at all, that person has rationalized, justified, explained to self over and over again, 1,001 times, that nobody will ever listen to self and nobody cares if you're dead or alive, so why bother anymore? Let's just go out there and murder a whole bunch of people and say very clearly, kill me too, because I want to die anyway, I'm fed up with this life. And of course, everyone goes, oh, that person shot themselves, or oh, the policeman shot that person. And then everyone starts to justify, rationalize, excuse, and explain in some way to self why we have so much violence in this age. Well, that's the scenario I want to talk to you about today. Because if we spent more time with our babies, not blaming and shaming them while they're playing up, while we are worried about money and food and all the issues that we have as adults, if we could give more time to allowing a child to play and have pleasure and fun, and enticing the child to be able to be praised with more, do more, wow, you're improving, you're getting better, I see you as such a very happy child, and so on and so forth, you are much loved, you're much cared about, then we would have a better race of young ones growing up. But hey, no. for the poor people, the people, mothers and fathers who are struggling all the time, they are so depressed. They also have a negative understanding within themselves. If they don't try harder, slave away, push themselves in some way to try and survive this world that's so negative, ultimately the child's watching all this. And as hard as you try to teach your child, the world will change, people will be nicer, you have to apply yourself. They're watching mummy and daddy applying themselves and seeing no improvement. Then we see mummy and daddy arguing and fighting, maybe divorcing, maybe dying, who knows. All sorts of scenarios could arise out of that negativity. And ultimately, by the time that child is mature, adult, their programming within their consciousness is, I'm a failure, nobody likes me, nobody cares, throat chakra, nobody likes me, nobody cares about me, nobody knows what I want to do or don't want to do. They don't encourage me, support me. I go and socialize, I go and be with people, for example, in a dance hall, the recent damage that was done to so many, and so on. Ultimately, to realize they're insane, unbalanced, insecure, and the world looks on and says, well, what can we do about it? Well, the bottom line is it has to go to the top of the tree. And who's at the top of the tree? Politicians, policemen, lawyers, doctors, and all these people are literally overwhelmed with so many people who are now crying in the dark, alone and miserable. They don't have time. When I was teaching in Japan, I will tell you that I had quite a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists who came to be my patients. And every time I taught to them in the beginning to do my intake, I would say, how many people do you see in a day? And they would sit there and say, well, I work 8 hours. I'm only allowed 10 minutes with each patient in the hospital. And so every 6 patients times 8 hours is 48 people that they come in the door. I ask them, what is wrong? They tell me. I'm then given to give them support by saying, I can give you a tranquilizer. I can give you a sleeping pill. I can't counsel you now because your 10 minutes is up and you have to go. So I'm saying go find a specialist. Well, the specialist is also very busy and has no time to spend a good hour or 2 or 3 talking with that patient. So that's where I come in, because being a metaphysician, studied psychology, psychiatry in England, hypnosis, counseling, I'm a medium, so I channel spirit guides, friends, family, and so on. I can spend that amount of time with one person. And I can tell you over the years that I've been practicing in many, many countries around the world, that I know for a fact in Japan that I actually taught, helped, counseled people, so many that the company kept a record of 20,000 people in 10 years, in 20 years. 10 years of them were coming and getting counseling and so on and so forth, and the other 10 years becoming trained by me to be therapists in that country with various systems of things that I could teach them. I have 10 courses that I train people to become counselors, healers, lecturers, and so on. I've been in sabbatical because I lost my husband and my sister and my publisher and printer, and the list goes on. So I've been looking at the world, looking at what we've all been doing. And when Spirit said to me, start doing this radio show, The Truth, well, I didn't know what I was going to say. And sometimes I will channel, and so you'll hear the words coming out of my mouth in maybe a little bit deeper voice or something like that. But today I'm not channeling, I'm being me. And I want to tell you that when you see a policeman holding down a man to the point of death, and maybe 4 or 5 of them holding down someone that they can't breathe and that results in their death, you must look behind that moment and realize that they are frustrated policemen. They have been out on the street for years doing whatever they do, trying to help people who are angry and frustrated, and finding that those people who are angry and frustrated are violent and aggressive. And so in self-preservation and protection, they overkill the situation and, yes, do kill a person to death. Well, what do we know about this? In the overview, what we're looking at from the oneness point of view is the clearance of the great Piscean age. And here I will say, if you haven't already listened to my 2-hour talk on YouTube about the great Piscean age and the great Aquarian age overlapping, then please do, because you will learn a great deal. So when we have two great ages coming together for an overlap, we now, for you to understand, must go back into the Mayan calendar and understand that all the things that people were saying about it and the end of the world and the change and disasters and so on was in a way correct, but not to the point of saying the world is going to die. What we're saying is the great Piscean age of conquer, greed, rage, anger, and the list goes on in the negative, because you can look back and study just how many scenarios arose through 3,500 years from long before Jesus came to the earth, in the times of Buddha and Muhammad and all these people coming out of the prior age of that, saying we must find the middle road. We must find the balance between the dark and the light. And what happened? Well, the dark took over, and religion said all over the world, ours is better than yours, and you're not good enough to be in our religion. We cast you out. We don't want to know you. You're not kind enough, or you're not believing our philosophy and theology, and so on. And so what do we see? More conquering, more wars, more disablement of humankind. And over those many, many years, we learned the hard way that when you embrace rage, anger, conquering, taking, maiming, killing, all you're doing is depleting humankind and the beauty of mankind. Well, finally in 2008, the great Piscean age of 3,500 years ended, and the great Aquarian age began. I will tell you that when I met John and Paul with Brian practicing in the garage in England, they were talking about the great Aquarian age. We all knew it. My generation knew it was coming, and we were all very psychic and intuitive and so on. And so it wasn't surprising that John wanted to write the dawning of the great Aquarian age. And we did talk and chat a bit about that. So what you need to understand is we are now in the Aquarian age. It's taken us from 1990 until this year to understand that we've been in an overlap of the great Piscean age and the great Aquarian age birthing itself on top of that past history. And so what we've seen is a great awakening in the metaphysical understanding. We started to realize that you don't want to give someone's brain an electrical shock to make them stupid and so on, as they did in the early 1900s. Unfortunately, during my training in psychology, I did see that. It was so terrible. And today we wouldn't dream of doing it, hopefully in our country anyway. But around the world, there's still manic, depressive people who are conquering and leading their world. And so what we've seen is a rising up of people who want to change the world, to say no more of the Piscean age and much more of the new Aquarian age. The Aquarian age is going to be about 3,265 years. Nothing is always the same because our planets are moving constantly around a sun that has a pull effect on us. And so we are feeling this right now. And it's very important to every parent who's having a new baby to realize that they are the models upon which their child will copy. So parents who are young in their 20s are now still saying to their Piscean age parents, no, I do not want to think the way you think. I do not want the rules and regulations that you justify in keeping. So now what do we see? We see that anger and that rage rising up amongst these young people who are saying we want new leaders in our country with new ideas, new ways to share, new ways to listen and understand one another, new philosophies, and the metaphysical world is opening up more and more. When I was a child in England, 2 years old, running off to give messages to people that their husbands, sons were still alive or they're in the spirit world and happy, those people were so grateful for those messages because no one was doing it. And I, as a child, was just doing it because Spirit told me to run up and tell them. But the years made me grow and mature with my spirit guides to become the person I am today. And I'm here for you. If you have rage and anger and you have no one to talk to, you need to go and listen to a whole bunch of my radio shows, Journey into an Unknown World, on iTunes. It's still up there. There's about 140 shows there. There's also, they're up on SoundCloud. I've also done talks and lectures so that are on SoundCloud. Ask Dr. Margaret or Dr. Margaret Speaks. And now we've got this new show I'm doing, The Truth. So what is the truth today? The truth is you have been programmed to think negatively. Negativity says, I can't, I won't, I shan't, it isn't, it will never be, I don't know, I believe I'm a failure, everyone thinks I'm lousy, if I show my skills, they put me down because they're not as clever as me, and I feel victimized, ruined, locked in a corner, hiding myself in my bedroom because I have no friends. The older generation, the Piscean age, they're trying. They're out and about, they're doing dancing, singing, and whatever lovely things they like to get together. But then comes someone who ruins it, as we've seen on the news lately. Well, I don't want to be in the phrase of saying, poor you, and I know how you're suffering, because obviously I do. But I want to remind you that all the great sages of time have always said, find an alternative. Buddha said, walk the middle road, meaning that you have to understand both the light and the dark must integrate in order to understand the purity of light and to embrace it and use it on a daily level. You must first look at the dark and see what it's been like. Aga Khan was the son of Genghis Khan, and Genghis Khan threw a lot of people down a deep hole, and there was no way to recover because the hole was bottomless as far as we know. The Romans went out and conquered every country across Europe. So did the Greeks. Why? They wanted to find power. Why did they want power? So the gods would say they were great soldiers, great men of their time. But we also know, for example, Cornelius Tacitus, who I've been channeling since I was a small child, has been a great one in recording the Roman history of that period in his life. And so thanks to him, we know what Rome was like. But how many people have been embellishing that with the negativity of the Piscean age, making movies, showing us more and more people going out to fight with swords and hatchets. And right now, if you go on TV, there's a lot about the Vikings and how violent they were. And then when we look at the religious movies, they're all showing us just how much there were people who killed other people in the name of God, i.e. burning Joan of Arc. And now we're looking at lots of metaphysical shows about dwarfs and elves and all sorts of things, which were wonderful. For example, Tolkien's works. And up came more people with shows on understanding unity and tranquility, and lots of mediums now being born who are trying to spread the word of peace and truth in some way. And what's happened? Suddenly the showbiz side of it has taken those fairy stories and really made great emphasis on the dark side, the wizards, the cruel people of the dark side. Well, quite honestly, the dark side is not trying to get us to be possessed and fight, angels versus dark fallen angels versus bright light beings and so on. It's all in our imagination. It's all a part of us that is saying we have to look at the dark and light within us. Every day we see something negative, i.e., you might be very aware of your body and taking care of it, but you go to the grocery store to get your food, and in line in front of you is maybe a whole family of people who are absolutely 2 and 3 times the size that they should be. I was looking at 3 little children just the other day, and they probably weighed as much as me, and they were only 4, 5, and 6 years old. And Mummy was very large. Is that good? No, because the body is not getting the right foods. It would be far better for us all now if we start to think about what we put into our body, how we use our body, how we keep fit and strong, stop watching TV morning, noon and night, go out and about and share whatever skills and talents you have with people who are looking to do exactly what you can do so easily. Be a teacher. Even if you're only 7, you can be a teacher. By showing your skills and talents with drawing, painting, artwork, jumping over little walls and things, getting your body fit and strong, these are important things to do. So here on this particular show, The Truth, I'm saying don't lie to yourself. Don't tell yourself you can't do anything. All it takes is a desire to try and having a go. Don't tell yourself, see, I'm hopeless. Realize this is your first attempt. And first attempts always do end up with you not being satisfied, because you look at someone else who's super duper with it and you compare yourself and say, see, I'm hopeless. You don't think about the fact that that model that you're looking at has practiced for hours, days, weeks, years to be as good as they are. So whether you're a dancer, whether you're a sports person, or whether you're an actor in the light of show business, realize they've put a lot of time into making that movie for you to watch. And that movie is not to teach you how to be angry and frustrated and find a knife and kill someone. It's teaching you there is the light and the dark, and you have a choice to say of yourself, I will be the light. I will go out there into the world and counsel and be a living, walking example, whether it's through sports, acting, dancing, singing, or just giving a talk at your local church or school on how to be friends. One of the things I did locally once upon a time was talk about bullying, because it was so bad. Kids were bullying one another morning, noon and night. It still goes on, but it's not as many as it used to be. When I was in school, I was bullied for 2 years. And my mother and father just said, that will make you stronger. Nobody went to my aid. I had to learn to ignore it and say of those people, shut, walk away, say nothing. And given time, they got fed up. They got bored trying to rag me and pull me down and lose me in some competition thing. And why? Because my spirit guide said, they are jealous. They are jealous that you take time to care about people. And they see you helping the other kids in school who are also ragged. And they see you as a leader of those people being bullied. And they want to pull you down so that there's no one to protect the ones who are being bullied. Well, I got through that, obviously, and by the time my children, 4 boys, were born, they too were pulled into rag situations. And each one of my children, I taught them how to stand tall, how to be able to look at someone in the eyes. And I'm going to do this. I'm looking at you in your eyes right now, and I'm saying to you, look at my eyes. I'm saying to you, stop bullying everyone else, because the only person you're really bullying is yourself, because somebody is watching you and they will come along and bully you too. Do you want to be a bully your whole life? Or do you want to be loving, warm? See the love in my eyes. Find that in your eyes. Go to your mirror and see how angry your eyes are. And smile. So this is my little lesson for you today. In my book, The Rejection Syndrome is, I'm thinking about halfway through. I'm sorry I can't give you the page, but there is a therapy you can do in the mirror, talking to yourself. You can print it up from the book, and then you can read it aloud to yourself, looking in your bathroom mirror. Cry all you want, angry all you want, but get it out of you, because this is not a foundation stone upon which to build your future. This will send you crashing down as an adult, and you'll just lose your way. And then maybe one day you'd find yourself thinking, I want to kill myself, or I want to go out and kill other people. You don't want that, do you? None of us want that. For the Aquarian age, we need to listen. And when Jesus said, turn the other cheek, he meant find the other face, the light face, the happy face. Don't give them the angry face, because if you give them the angry face, they'll fight you and you'll lose. And when Buddha said, walk the middle road, he said, you are light and dark. You must learn to manage them within yourself. And when you do, you won't be insane. He sat under a banyan tree and realized he was hurting himself. And on that moment, he found the light, he found the dark harmonizing, and he went home and changed India. And when you think about Muhammad, he looked at all the great sages of time and said of his works, and remember it was verbal in those days, if you think about the models of those people and the things they've said, what does that mean to you personally? Do not find the dark and the light. And Muhammad did use the dark to put down all those who were negative in the beginning. But once he'd done that, he said, find the truth within yourself. Think about it. Listen. Hear what people have to say. And find a truth that can reach the hearts of others. And so today, Muslims read those texts. Unfortunately, there were many who read them with anger, fear, and did terrible things. But there are many Muslims who are great, who do read the text and do understand that they must find the balance within self to be models of the light and the dark in harmony. And of the Jews. So many say of the Jews that they are the ones who've been thrown to the wolves. But the truth is, we've all been born incarnated as Jews, and we've all suffered as Jews. Why? Because we have to understand what it's like to be victimized. But that doesn't mean that we have to continually mourn the victims of those times. There are victims we'll never even recall, but we are grateful for the Old Testament and for the philosophy and theology that came out of that darkness. And so when you listen to the Jews, realize they're saying, don't hurt people. Be kind. Be loving. Because once upon a time, the Jews were very aggressive. And on that note, I'm saying I've run out of time. My half hour is up. Please share this with anyone online, on Facebook and all the other medias. And if you like to read, follow me, please do. And also go to SoundCloud and to YouTube and iTunes and watch all my videos. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you so much. And please share this with anyone that you know who needs help right now. Okay, I've got to switch off now and I'll try to get my mouse to work, so be patient.